I always said if we ever won the lottery, I'd book a first-class ticket out of this marriage. Turns out, I should have been more specific about who we meant. It was a Thursday, one of those lazy, overcast evenings in late September when the sky can't decide if it's depressed or just tired. I was on the couch in our perfectly average two-bedroom condo in Chicago, wearing fleece socks and sipping Merlot out of a mug that said, "World's okayest wife." The irony did not hit me until much later. My husband, Derek, waltzed through the front door holding a crumpled slip of paper like it was the Holy Grail. He wasn't the type to skip, emotionally or physically, but that night, he came close. "Guess who's quitting his job tomorrow?" he said, eyes wide with that childlike glee I hadn't seen in years. Not since before the infertility treatments. Before his tempers got shorter and the silences got longer. He slapped the lottery ticket onto the counter and hit the TV remote. "Look, 14, 27, 32, 45, 58, Powerball 19. That's me, baby." I blinked. "How much did you win?" He turned to me with a grin like he was about to propose all over again. "Just under 6 million, after taxes." I laughed. I actually laughed. Not because I was thrilled, but because suddenly the man I'd supported through years of debt, spotty employment, and his entrepreneurial phase, aka the 6 months he tried to launch a podcast about poker strategy, had just hit financial independence. And you know what happens when a man like Derek no longer needs his wife? He becomes a walking cliché. At first, he played the role of the grateful husband. He upgraded our car, not mine, ours, to a new BMW. Took us to brunch spots we'd previously judged people for Instagramming. Booked a trip to Aruba to celebrate. But 3 weeks in, things started to slip. His phone, once face up and ignored, now lived screen down, buzzing silently during dinner. He started working out more, despite never caring for gyms before. He also got a fresh fade and bought 2 leather jackets. Not 1, 2. He thought I wouldn't notice, but I always notice. So when I saw his laptop open one night and caught a glimpse of a PayPal transaction to someone named Jesse R., I didn't ask, I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I simply smiled, kissed his cheek, and walked into our bedroom to start planning. Because here's the thing. When someone shows you who they are after money hits the account, believe them. Then make sure the exit door hits them exactly where you aimed. You ever sit in a nail salon trying to decide between rosé all day and mauve over it, while mentally constructing a psychological profile of your husband's mistress? Because that was me. 2 weeks post-lottery win, sipping cucumber water in a downtown spa, pretending to care about cuticle oil while watching her. Jessie R. She didn't know me, but I knew her, or at least the curated version of her life Derek had paid for. Instagram, private. Venmo, not. And babe, let me tell you, people still don't realize Venmo is a digital diary of poor decisions. There she was, Jessie Rivera, 28, yoga instructor, digital artist, dog mom, apparently incapable of setting her transactions to private. Over the past month, she'd received money from D. Andrews, Derek's full name, with charming captions like, "For your patience," and "You earned this, babe." My personal favorite? Puppy daycare. That's how I learned about Biscuit. The golden doodle Derek swore he was just watching for a friend. That dog had his own Instagram, and I wish I were joking. I dug through photos of Biscuit at brunch, Biscuit at the lake, Biscuit with Jessie in a pink bikini I'd once seen in a Nordstrom catalog and said was too expensive. So I booked an appointment at the nail salon Jessie had tagged twice, once for a self-care Saturday, and once to show off her almond-shaped French tips. And there she was, seated 2 chairs away from me, flipping through her phone, giggling to herself like the lead in a bad rom-com. She looked exactly how I imagined. Pretty, but in that curated way. Eyelash extensions, gym tan highlighter glow, and an "I'm just spiritual, not religious" tattoo on her forearm. She had a soft pink laptop case with a sticker that said, "Manifest that shit." I wanted to scream. I wanted to drag her acrylics across the marble floor. Instead, I waited until she left, snapped a photo of her license plate, and texted it to myself from a burner phone I'd bought the day after the lottery win. Yes, I had a burner. No, this wasn't my first betrayal rodeo. Then I smiled at the nail tech, paid in cash, and walked out like I hadn't just discovered the woman my husband was financing like a Patreon sugar baby. That night, Derek kissed me goodnight like everything was fine. Like I hadn't just seen the babe he Venmo'd earlier that morning for spa treats. And you know what I did? I kissed him back, told him I loved him, and the next day I hired a private investigator. Because while Derek was out there thinking with his lower half, I was 10 steps ahead, building a paper trail that would bury him in court faster than he could say irreconcilable differences. You know that tight, breathless feeling you get when you're about to open a message you know is going to ruin your day? That was me, standing in the middle of Trader Joe's, clutching a bag of frozen dumplings, when the PI's email hit my inbox. Subject line: Derek Andrews Activity Report. Confidential. I dumped the dumplings into my cart, marched straight to self-checkout, and practically ran home to open that file. And what I saw? Oh, honey. Not just cheating, strategic cheating. First up, the photos. There was Derek and Jessie walking Biscuit around Lincoln Park like the happy couple they thought they were. Derek had his arm around her like he wasn't legally married to the woman who filed his damn taxes. Then came the receipts. Literally. Dinner at RPM Steak, $327.47. A weekend at the Gwen Hotel, $1,100 suite with skyline view. 2 plane tickets to Miami in 2 weeks, under fake names. His? Richard Dawson. Hers? J. Luna, creative. I'll give them that. But what made my hands start shaking wasn't the hand-holding or the hotels. It was the investment documents. Derek had started siphoning lottery funds, our winnings, into a solo venture account under his name only, not our joint account. A shiny new LLC filed 3 weeks after the win, called, quote, 2. Cute, right? Except Derek hadn't consulted anyone, least of all his legally bound wife. And here's the kicker. Guess who was listed as a creative director on the LLC documents? Jessie Rivera. That's when I stopped being sad, stopped being shocked, stopped even being mad. Because, girl, I knew exactly what to do. See, Derek always thought of me as the steady one, boring even. I was the spreadsheet queen, the one who clipped coupons and read credit card fine print. He thought I wouldn't notice if money went missing, or if he slowly rewrote the narrative of our windfall into his. Big mistake. Huge. What he forgot is that I was the reason we weren't still swimming in debt from his failed businesses. I handled our budgets, our investments, our taxes. Hell, I had the IRS on speed dial and a folder in our home office labeled audit insurance. So while he was out building his fantasy startup with a 28-year-old yogi and a rescue dog, I was pulling bank records, collecting screenshots, and setting traps he wouldn't see coming until it was too late. I called our accountant, a woman, bless her sharp-eyed soul, and told her to freeze everything Derek had access to except the accounts I was secretly watching. I needed to see just how deep the betrayal went before I lowered the boom. And baby, it was deep. Offshore account deep. He'd already wired $250,000 to a bank in the Cayman Islands, under the same Richard Dawson alias. Turns out, Derek was planning a full-blown vanishing act. Problem was, he married someone who plays financial chess, and I had just moved my queen. They say never play dirty unless you're ready to get your hands messy. Well, I put on gloves, metaphorical ones, and waded into the mud with the elegance of a ballet assassin. Here's how it went down. After I confirmed Derek was draining our lottery winnings into his solo slush fund, I knew I had to strike before he funneled the rest out of reach. But screaming at him, confronting him with receipts, that would have only made him hide the rest faster. So instead, I played dumb. The next morning, over oat milk lattes, I told him, "You've been so energized lately. Maybe you should start that consulting firm you always talked about." He blinked, surprised. I watched his mind stutter like a buffering video. "Really?" "Totally," I said, brushing a crumb off my lap. "In fact, I've been talking to this guy I met through a friend, big investor, loves funding small creative ventures, wants to meet you." Hook, line, ego. Wait, he wants to meet me? Derek perked up like I'd handed him a mirror and a compliment. "He's flying into Chicago next week. I told him about your vision," I said, making air quotes with one hand and sipping coffee with the other like I hadn't already paid a very talented actor off Craigslist to pretend to be Bill Howard, private investor from Austin. We set the meeting for Friday. I booked a private room at an upscale co-working space, called in a favor from a lawyer friend to play the assistant, and I hired a notary. Yes, a notary. Because this wasn't just about catching Derek. It was about cornering him into transferring the remaining funds back into the original joint trust account, the one I'd quietly created 3 days earlier, complete with airtight protections, and a clause that gave me full authority over withdrawals once his signature was on it. I had Bill bring a mock investment agreement, 10 pages of beautifully designed nonsense that promised high returns and creative autonomy. Derek skimmed it, completely distracted by buzzwords like equity split and brand innovation. He didn't even blink when he signed the addendum that legally redirected all assets in his name back into the new trust for management purposes. The notary stamped it right there. Derek smiled like he'd just closed a deal with Mark Cuban. "I like this Bill guy," he told me in the elevator, arm around my shoulder. "Oh, babe," I said, resting my head on his shoulder. "I think he's going to change your life." And he did. By Monday, every cent left from the lottery win, and even the funds sitting in his Cayman playground, were legally frozen, pending a full review. Because guess what Derek didn't know? You can't list your mistress as a business partner on a trust that was co-founded with your actual wife. Courts don't love that. And oh, I was just getting started. So there I was, in full downward dog, minding my own chakras, when I heard the distinct slap, slap, slap of someone stomping barefoot across the studio hardwood like they were preparing for war. "You're Harper?" Every head in the room turned, including mine, upside down, ass to the sky, and hair stuck to my lip gloss. There stood Jessie Rivera, red in the face, wearing a neon sports bra, leggings that looked like they'd been peeled off a mermaid, and rage. The instructor blinked, stunned. Can we help?" Jessie cut her off. "I need to speak with her." She pointed at me like we were in a medieval courtroom and I'd just hexed her goats. I straightened up slowly, grabbed my water bottle, and motioned toward the hallway. Outside, she didn't wait. "What the hell did you do to Derek?" I raised an eyebrow. "You'll have to be more specific." "His accounts are frozen. He's freaking out. Says you tricked him into signing something." "Oh, I didn't trick him," I said calmly. "He signed everything with full, caffeinated consent." Her mouth opened, closed. Then she crossed her arms, eyes blazing. "You're trying to ruin his life." "No," I said, stepping closer. "I'm just making sure he doesn't use my money to fund his midlife rebrand with a side of coconut oil and betrayal." Her nostrils flared. "You know he loves me, right?" I smiled. That's sweet, but you might want to love him from a distance, like, say, a court-mandated 500 feet. Her face crumpled into confused fury. You're insane. I stepped even closer, lowering my voice. You might want to ask him why your name is listed on a trust document that could get you pulled into financial misrepresentation. Fun fact, joint fraud is still fraud. She blinked. What? Oh, sweetheart, I said. Did you think you were just the flirty accessory in his reinvention fantasy? You're complicit. There are screenshots, paper trails. And if he tries to claim financial abuse, guess what's admissible? Venmo records and hotel footage. Her silence was delicious. I'm not coming for you, Jessie, I added. But if you go down with him, I'm not tossing you a life raft. She stared at me for a long moment, then, like a true dramatic heroine, turned on her heel and walked off, barefoot, of course, leaving behind a trail of righteous indignation and a whiff of lavender essential oil. I walked back into the studio, took my spot on the mat, and whispered to the woman next to me. Sorry about that, my husband's other business partner. She giggled. The instructor resumed class, and I spent the next 45 minutes in warrior pose, thinking about how calm I felt. Because the storm was just beginning, and I was already dry. If you've never sat across from your soon-to-be ex-husband in a law office while he tries to charm his way out of accountability, you're missing one of life's most infuriating theater performances. Derek looked smug, like a man who thinks the worst is behind him just because he put on a blazer and didn't forget to zip up his fly. His lawyer, meanwhile, looked like he'd walked out of a J.Crew outlet and into a courtroom by accident. His name was Logan Wyatt. Big ego, nice shoes, and one very unfortunate thing going for him. He used to date my sister. I didn't plan it that way, but fate, and Tinder's geography algorithm, has a twisted sense of humor. Logan ghosted my sister after 5 months of dating and 1 trip to Maui. So the second he saw me walk into that conference room, he knew he'd screwed up. Harper, he said, clearing his throat and standing like he could bow his way out of this. Didn't realize that your client's wife was someone whose family you've already emotionally inconvenienced? I asked sweetly. That makes 2 of us. Derek looked between us, confused. You know each other? Oh, intimately, I said, locking eyes with Logan. But don't worry, I'm not here to relive family trauma, just here to collect what I'm legally entitled to. Logan coughed, flipping open a folder like it would protect him. Right, well, Derek wanted to offer a, gracious settlement. He believes you've, quote, already made a statement and would like to move forward with minimal animosity. That's how you know someone's panicking. They start saying things like minimal animosity after you've legally frozen $500,000 of their cash. I leaned back, calm as a spa playlist. Logan, I'm not here for blood. I'm here for justice. I don't need more than what's mine. But I will take every penny I'm owed, plus damages for financial misconduct, spousal fraud, and emotional distress. Logan blinked. That feels aggressive. I leaned forward, voice low and smooth. Does it? Because the courts don't tend to find it aggressive when the husband secretly opens LLCs, transfers marital funds overseas, and lists his mistress as a co-founder. Derek opened his mouth. I held up a finger. Don't. This is the part where you sit quietly while the adults talk numbers. And here's where it got even more delicious. I pulled out a printed copy of an old text from Derek, back when he was groveling after I caught him with Jesse's thong in his briefcase. The text read, in part, "You've always been the one holding me up. Without you, I'd be bankrupt, literally and emotionally." Derek looked like he wanted to crawl into the HVAC vents. Logan glanced at it, then at his client. Is that real? I nodded. And admissible. I have years of these. Now, if you want to negotiate, great. But if this goes to court, we're not just talking money. We're talking PR. And I'd love to walk into that courtroom with every text, every Venmo receipt, and the full client list of Andrew's creative consulting. Derek's face was frozen. Logan closed the folder. We'll review our options. I smiled. You do that. As I left, I sent a quick text to my sister. Guess who's defending Derek? Mr. Maui Ghoster. You were right. He is mediocre. Derek thought he was slick. When the legal stuff started tightening around his wallet like a corset on a bad day, he pivoted. Not to humility, of course, but to reputation management. And by that, I mean he started floating little half-truths and twisted stories to our mutual friends. The kind who love to say, I don't take sides, while absolutely taking sides. It started innocently enough. A friend texted, Hey, just checking in. I heard you and Derek are going through some stuff. He told me it's been hard for both of you. Some stuff. Cute. Then came the real dagger. My college roommate, Tasha, messaged me after lunch with him. He said you froze his business funds out of jealousy? That you never supported his dreams? That you're trying to ruin him because he finally found happiness? Oh, happiness. You mean the woman you met 6 weeks ago on a yoga mat who calls herself a brand alchemist? I took a long breath. This wasn't just him running scared. This was him actively trying to smear me so that, when he inevitably started losing things, money, clients, credibility, he could shrug and say, It wasn't my fault. My ex is just bitter. But baby, I wasn't bitter. I was bulletproof. So I did what any strategic, emotionally sound woman would do. I hosted a truth party. No theme, no agenda, just wine, snacks, and a private group text invite to everyone who'd ever tagged both Derek and me in a photo and still liked both our posts after the breakup. Friends, coworkers, college pals, even his old barber. The invitation? Simple. This Saturday, my place. Pinot, pizza, and perspective. If you've heard Derek's side, you owe it to yourself to hear mine. Receipts will be served. And honey, they showed up. I had a PowerPoint. I had printed texts. I had a playlist. The whole night was part confessional, part TED Talk, and just a little bit of courtroom drama with Prosecco. There was an actual moment, I'll never forget it, when I stood in front of the group, holding up a screenshot of Derek's spa day Venmo to Jesse and said, This, friends, is the man who told me I was too emotionally practical to be spontaneous. Laughter, gasps, even a, he did not. I read aloud his LLC documents, the wire transfers, the fake Miami trip itinerary. I showed a side-by-side of his public Instagram versus his private burner where he posted photos of Babe and B, meaning Jesse and Biscuit, with captions like, This is what real peace feels like. Tasha, bless her, turned red halfway through. I feel like an idiot. I believed him. You're not an idiot, I said. He's just really good at lying to women who give him the benefit of the doubt. By the end of the night, every last guest was Team Me. Not because I asked them to be, but because truth doesn't need a filter. It just needs a platform. Oh, and the friend who brought him as a +1 to my birthday dinner last year? She sent me a text the next morning. I just unfollowed him. I had no idea. You're a damn force. Damn right I am. You know what's worse than a cheating husband? A cheating husband with a ring light and a victim complex. Because after Derek realized he'd officially lost the friend group, the finances, and any legal advantage he thought he had, he took it online. Yep, my ex-husband went full TikTok philosopher. I woke up one morning to a DM from a friend. Girl, Derek just posted something. You're not gonna like it. I clicked the link. There he was, in soft lighting, shirt slightly unbuttoned, trying to look wounded yet wise, sitting in front of some fake houseplants and that cursed guitar he never learned to play. Caption: when the woman you gave your whole life to tries to erase you the second she gets hurt. Healing through betrayal. Hashtag divorce diaries. Hashtag men have feelings too. Men have feelings too. The man who Venmo'd a yoga instructor $500 for emotional support while we were still married was now branding himself as a trauma-informed empath. And the kicker? The video had 24,000 likes and counting. Oh, I could have commented, could have DM'd, could have gone full scorched earth in the replies. But no, that's not how this girl plays. Instead, I made my own post. Black and white photo, simple caption, no hashtags. Just me, sitting cross-legged on my living room floor, holding a red folder with divorce documents labeled across the front. My face? Calm, clear-eyed, not a tear in sight. Caption: this is what surviving looks like. I gave him loyalty, he gave me lies. He thought silence was power, but transparency is louder. Here's to every woman who was underestimated, gaslit, and still kept the receipts. We don't just heal, we evolve. No hashtags, no names, just truth. In 24 hours, it had 92,000 likes, over 3,000 comments, women tagging each other, stories shared, messages flooded in. Thank you for this. Going through the same. Divorced last year, this hit home. I hope he sees this while stuck in traffic and can't skip it. One comment stood out. I saw Derek's video and almost felt bad for him. Then I found this. You're a legend. I didn't have to say his name. Everyone knew. And apparently, so did Derek. Because the next day, his TikTok was gone. Deleted. Every post wiped. I imagine Jessie wasn't too thrilled when she found out her poetic little boyfriend was losing a PR war to his ex-wife and her folder of truths. The real cherry on top? A podcast, The Modern Unwife, asked me to be a guest. They wanted me to talk about betrayal, financial protection, and what women should actually do after being burned. I didn't say yes right away, but I did start drafting an outline called How to Outwit a Narcissist Without Breaking a Sweat. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't public humiliation. It's public evolution. Court day. The big, beige room where egos go to die and lawyers flex in overpriced suits while trying not to sweat through them. I wore navy. Clean, sharp, unbothered. Derek walked in like he was the misunderstood protagonist of a sad indie film. Hair freshly styled, tie slightly loosened, like, "Look how stressed I am about all this, Your Honor." Please. The judge was a woman in her 50s with the vibe of someone who'd seen every flavor of marital disaster and was no longer impressed by theatrics. Perfect. Derek's lawyer, Logan, aka my sister's ex, opened with a monologue about emotional instability, retaliatory financial control, and some nonsense about how I had sabotaged Derek's professional aspirations. I didn't flinch, because today, I had an ace. Two, actually, but one wore a floral blouse and orthopedic shoes. Let me explain. Remember that sweet little co-working space where I staged Derek's fake investor meeting? The one with the notary? Turns out the receptionist there, Linda, had seen and heard everything. I didn't ask her to eavesdrop, she just did. Because people like Linda have one job and one superpower. They notice everything. And when I casually dropped by a few days later to thank her for her discretion, she said, "Oh, honey, I knew that man was shady the second he called you babe in front of his business partner. You need a witness statement?" So today, when Logan smugly presented Derek as the wronged creative visionary, I simply turned to my lawyer and nodded. "Your Honor," she said, standing, "we'd like to call a witness." Derek blinked. Logan froze. And in walked Linda. Purse on shoulder, glasses on chain, and absolutely no tolerance for nonsense. She took the stand, smiled at me, then delivered a calm, clear testimony. Yes, I witnessed the meeting. Harper introduced herself as Derek's wife. The notary was present. Mr. Andrews asked for coffee with oat milk. He and a woman named Jessie entered the room after the notary arrived. They signed the documents with no objection. There was laughter. They celebrated with champagne. Logan stammered. Ms.
Linda, are you certain he understood what he was signing?
Linda tilted her head. Sir, I have 3 grown sons. I know the difference between confusion and arrogance. That man was excited. The courtroom chuckled. The judge didn't stop them. Then my lawyer dropped the final bomb, a time-stamped video, security footage, of Derek dancing in the elevator after signing the papers. Yes, dancing. The judge reviewed the footage, flipped through the documentation, then looked at Derek. Mr. Andrews, she said, I hope that champagne was worth it, because you just legally authorized every transfer your wife executed. And per the prenuptial agreement you both signed 7 years ago, any attempt to hide marital assets voids your claim to spousal funds. Derek went pale. Jessie, sitting quietly in the back, stood up and left. The ruling? I retained 100% of the remaining assets. The court ordered Derek to pay all legal fees and, get this, mandated that he take a financial responsibility course before filing any future LLCs. Poetic. I walked out of the courthouse that day into the sun, shoulders light, free. But we weren't done just yet. It was a Sunday. Quiet, golden light spilling through the windows, my favorite vinyl spinning something moody and French in the background. I was halfway through folding laundry and halfway through deciding whether I should finally block Derek's number when my doorbell rang. I checked the camera. It was him. Hair unkempt, hoodie wrinkled. That look on his face. The sad puppy with abandonment issues he only dusted off when he needed to manipulate. I stared for a beat, then buzzed him in. Not because I owed him anything, but because some farewells deserve to be heard and shut down in person. He stood in the doorway holding flowers. Cheap ones. Grocery store bouquet wrapped in plastic. Carnations. I raised an eyebrow. Seriously? I said. You show up here after a courtroom beating with pity carnations? He swallowed. I just wanted to talk. I crossed my arms and leaned on the doorframe. Then talk. I messed up, he said, eyes glassy. I got caught up in the money and Jessie wasn't what I thought. A yoga instructor with Wi-Fi and a vision board? I snapped. You don't say. I didn't expect to lose everything, he went on. You, the money, my reputation. I thought maybe we could start over. And there it was, the final insult. He still believed there was a version of reality where I'd hand him forgiveness like a refund receipt, as if he hadn't tried to erase me financially, emotionally, publicly. I looked him dead in the eye. You didn't lose me, Derek. You threw me away. And you didn't lose the money. You tried to steal it. He opened his mouth, but I wasn't done. You want forgiveness? Get it from your Instagram followers.
Or the girl who called herself your healer. I'm not here to be your redemption arc.
He looked down at the flowers like they'd wilted in his hand. I don't know who I am without you. And that was the most honest thing he'd said in 2 years. I stepped back, slowly shutting the door between us. That's your problem now, I said. Mine is choosing the perfect marble finish for my new kitchen, and spoiler, it won't be granite. I'm done settling for anything that doesn't shine. Click. The door closed, And just like that, so did the chapter. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was clean, peaceful. A full exhale after years of holding my breath. Later that week, I donated the last of Derek's leftover junk to a women's shelter and signed the lease on a condo overlooking the lake. I started consulting part-time, working on my own terms. No bosses, no shadows, just me in the light. Jessie? I heard she moved back to her hometown and started teaching goat yoga.
Derek tried rebranding himself as a creative coach, but tanked when his own followers turned on him after piecing the story together. As for me, I'm happy. Genuinely, quietly, unapologetically happy. And every time I pass that world's okayest wife mug on my shelf, the one I kept as a trophy, I smile. Because I was never just an okay wife. I was the woman who watched a man win the lottery, lose his morals, and still walked away richer in every way that mattered. Game over, Derek. And I won.